Hi, this is Mac. Today we're going to look at the power of one. So first-party data matters. We're going to look at why the marketer's role has changed and why that's a problem, why first-party data is your future, whether you like it or not, how to collect and use first-party data ethically. So the power of one, going back to basics, focusing on one-to-one communication at scale and using first-party data as our fuel. So for a long time, marketers worked at marketing stalls. They knew their customers, they knew what they wanted, and they were able to have one-on-one communications with their customers. They were able to say, hey, how are you? Would you like some bananas? Oh, yeah, you've been away this week. Have you thought about strawberries? There's an offer on strawberries. And they'll be able to build up that rapport. Technology now has got to the point where we can start emulating some of that interaction again. And so really the power of one is about going back to basics. It's about focusing on that one-to-one communication, but being able to do that at scale. And the way that we do that is using first-party data as our fuel. So in a normal human interaction, you're taking in that data, aren't you? You're listening to what people say, you're seeing their movements of the store. All of that's lost digitally online without tracking. So we're using all those different data points as attributes to build up a persona. So what do modern marketers look like today? So they're a jack of all trades. They're expected to know SEO, expected to know paid, supposed to be experts in email, they're supposed to be able to understand web analytics, Google Tag Manager. Now we're supposed to be able to upload things to the website through CMS. We are supposed to be aware of what a customer data platform is. At the same time, configuring our GTM containers to work with advanced consent mode. You get to a situation where you just become somebody who operates the tools. And as long as we're running a good cost per click, we're getting return on investment, and the cheap third-party data keeps flowing, that's fine and that works. And your competitors are doing that, and so to compete, so do you. But you become swamped by tools and channels, and the conversation is all about marketing mix. But ultimately, you're bidding for strangers. You're not moving from paid to earned to owned, because as long as the cost per click is low, the party keeps going. But ultimately, that has meant marketers, and then by extension, brands and businesses, have become completely dependent on accessing audience through big tech. There's many stories out there around companies that as soon as Facebook became less reliable in terms of being able to deliver audiences and the rollback of third-party cookies, their business no longer existed because they never made those connections with their customers, because they have no real customer base. So what's the alternative? So the alternative is there's first-party data. I know that's a little embarrassing. So third-party data is being phased out, and we need to be compliant. Often you might be working with your customer management platform provider, and that could be OneTrust or Civic Banner or what have you, and they'll say that it's implemented, but they won't go the extra yard to go into Google Tag Manager and ensure that all your tags are set up correctly. They'll just say that they've done their piece, and generally it's not something that marketers will know much about because they're so overwhelmed in terms of everything else that they're supposed to do. But there's an emphasis on us being compliant. We need to be compliant with changes in GDPR, need to be compliant in terms of getting the right permission for that data and using that to build our own audiences. And in the future, this first-party data will be even more important, because as we lose access to third-party data, what's starting to come in, tools like Google Analytics, it's model data. And for model data to be accurate, it needs to have a good quality input of first-party data to be able to give sensible projections of what sessions and things like that you might have lost if someone decides they don't give consent to be tracked. Tools and AI will also enable one-to-one communication at scale. So if you're not doing this, you're going to fall behind because other companies are. And if you can't rely on third-party data anymore, then it's time to start doing really what most businesses and brands should have been doing in the first place, is building up their own audience and not relying on third-party data. Now, the good thing is that first-party data becomes more expensive to gather. Its return on investment is more because what you can do with it is now more. So you can imagine informing if we talk about those one-to-one communications, never would that be really possible digitally until now we start bringing into AI into the mix. You could have a custom chatbot on your site that basically talks your new customers through the onboarding process and learns based on all those attributes as and when customers are comfortable giving that information and start trusting you to give you that information. So how do we do this ethically instead of just paying the best price? Okay, so how do we do this? So we build customer data over time, and we do that through value exchange. So we need to accept that if someone doesn't know us, then we don't have the right to immediately know everything about them. But what we can do is we can offer a value exchange. So we can say, just give me a little bit of data to start with, and I'll be able to deliver you a better customer experience. So that can start with, on our consent management platform banner as it pops up, it says, can we have consent for analytics data? And that can be just session, user, and event data. That enables us to understand where our users and sessions are coming from. And that will be a unique ID in the platform, but not necessarily connected to a name or multiple visits, because over time we do lose that. But we can improve the website and we can see what marketing is working in terms of how much traffic lands on the site, what they do when they're there, kind of the basic metrics. But then, and not necessarily immediately, we can offer them some kind of incentive to give us their email and their name, and only what we actually need at that time. So if we want them to, they can check out without logging in. But if they do log in, then we could potentially offer them a discount, knowing that they're a returning customer. We can offer some other benefit, and that could be in the next purchase to come back again. So we move just from just what we need, email and name. Then once we have that, and we can start attracting a email and name to a user ID, we can start over time building up buying preferences and general user behavior. And as long as we haven't betrayed their trust by spamming them the moment we got their email and name, we can do that. And our offers can improve, and they can be based on leaving something in the cart or going to specific pages. And we can start building up these audiences with these additional attributes and enabling the beginnings of one-to-one communication at scale. And what we're effectively doing is we're shrinking the size of our segmentation from everybody, specific names and what information that gives us, to buying preferences and user behavior, to then enable more direct communication back. Then you start getting to the point where you get the sense of whether they might be a mother, or a father, or a parent, what their birthday is, what their interests are. And as long as that's handled correctly, and they've given us permission to have that data for us to then say, it's Mother's Day, it's appropriate for us to send you an email about it being Mother's Day because you've said that you are a mother, rather than just assuming that every woman is a mother and then wants to have an email in their inbox saying Happy Mother's Day. Just like you would at the market store, you start building up that data, these attributes, to build a picture of who these personas are and who these people are. But the most important thing is each stage we get permission, and each stage that permission can be rescinded. And so when we're building customer data platform, a database, or a warehouse, and we've got these attributes and we've got this information, and we're building that over time in order to just deliver better marketing, better communication, a better service. The first attribute that we want, and that's associated with our user and that name, is, do we have permission to use this data and in what capacity?
If you've enjoyed this episode, please like and subscribe, and you can be notified when we release new videos. Please feel free to reach out if you have any suggestions of things you'd like us to cover. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time.